ie.
Rain and drizzle will continue tonight with mist and fog on higher ground as well. Humid with lowest temperatures 10 to 14 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
All right, you're welcome along. It's Mondays Off the Ball. Nathan with you until 10 o'clock. We got a lot of football analysis coming over the next few hours. Pat and Evan will join us at 7:30 to reflect on the first weekend back. Give us your thoughts on 53106. We'll also hear from Brian Kerr and Damien Delaney, who were part of our commentary team for yesterday's 2 live matches. Leinster and Munster back training today ahead of the restart of the rugby season. Roy O'Connor will talk to us about that. And the PGA Tour rolls on, and they had their first case of a positive test of COVID-19 for the player Nick Watney, which has raised a lot of questions considering he was at the course on the green when he was told to go back home. We're going to chat to Shane Ryan, who was at the event, and talk about that between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. At Off the Ball, if you want to get in touch on Twitter. If you're heading out and about for the evening, download the brand new OTB Sports app and you can listen in or watch in if you want, because we have Richie McCormick and Roland Mullen with us in a glorious Technicolor. How are we keeping, lads?
Good, thanks, Nathan. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. A good weekend of Roy Keane goodness. Rolled all the way through from Friday night all the way through till Sunday.
Thrilling, wasn't it?
It was like the Premier League never went away. We got all the greatest hits. We got Roy Keane, Paul Pogba, Willie Won't He on Friday, and then we got Arsenal's implosion. And then even today, we've got some Jose Mourinho sort of passive aggression in a press conference. So we've ticked all the boxes.
Should we start with Jose Mourinho's passive aggressiveness and his Rafa rant that may go down in infamy like Rafa Benitez due to Mourinho getting his facts wrong? Even though he had them written down in front of him, it seems he got his facts wrong. He gave Didier Drogba about 100 more goals than he actually scored when he was with Chelsea.
I think
186 or something that he said scored.
When he took the Man United job and everyone was criticising that he had no sort of history bringing through academy players, he listed off all these young players that he quote-unquote brought through, and one of those was Arjen Robben, who was like one of the most precocious talents in European football. So I think he has a habit of sort of skewing the facts to his favour.
Yeah, I think he said Drogba scored 186 goals, but it turned out Drogba had actually played 186 games.
Easy mistake to make, Nathan.
Easy mistake to make, because Drogba was never really the most prolific under Mourinho at Chelsea. So, yeah, we'll get to that on the football show. Dan McDonald will be with us, and we'll hear from Damien Delaney and Brian Kerr. I feel sorry for the Premier League this weekend, because I think it was, not for the first time, slightly overhyped in advance. And it turns out there's a lot of bad games in the Premier League. Not every game is brilliant. Turns out Crystal Palace against Bournemouth, showing that live first free-to-air game ever, may not have been the wisest choice. How many did you watch out of the 9 so far, Richie? How many did you watch?
How many did I watch? The 4 for which I was in the office for last week. Okay. So that's definite 4. I watched about half of Bournemouth Palace, and I watched a little bit of Liverpool and Everton yesterday. So what, 6 in total maybe?
Okay, so you're throwing in the 2 Wednesday, you're up to 11, right? That's okay. It's a reasonable number. Roland, did you go all in?
Yeah.
It was all about Arsenal-Brighton. It was kind of, to your point, I was sitting there for the first few minutes thinking, is this all we've got? And then it turned out to be a very entertaining game, talking points aplenty, and it kind of obviously crescendoed nicely at the end. But yeah, huge talking points out of that game anyway.
All right, a lot of the games have followed that similar pattern where the first half an hour is a complete write-off.
Yeah, really slow. Incredibly slow.
The drinks breaks not helping things, is it? The drinks breaks, which were obviously brought in with a view to sort of helping players through presumably high temperatures, but that obviously hasn't been the case at all. Granted, I know hydration is very key for fitness, and obviously in pre-season games or pre-season tournaments this would be the norm, but it definitely does stem the flow of games, and it's been noted on commentary by a lot of people that just as the game's sort of settling into a rhythm, it's reset almost, and that's been noticeable in all the games I've seen.
Well, also on Friday night in the Spurs United game, it was lashing rain. Didn't even look like it was that hot. Don't think they needed a break after 20 minutes.
They don't. And famously in the Lucozade Sport ad, John Barnes says after 90 minutes of sheer hell. He doesn't say after 22 and a half minutes of sheer hell you're going to be thirsty. It's 90 minutes. Get your drinks then.
Nathan, you must have been sick that Seamus Coleman was man of the match yesterday. You won't have anything negative to say about him. Do I go on about Seamus Coleman in a negative manner? I get criticised for the opposite.
Seamus Coleman hater.
Yeah, sorry, you've got the wrong guy here. That's Adrian Barry. I always get the opposite, that I'm too nice to him so that he'll talk to me after the games. But I don't need to worry about that anymore, so it's fine.
Decent tactic, to be fair.
I can say whatever I want. Hi guys, have you ever seen the ITV film Bostock's Cup with the fabulous Geordie actor Tim Healy as Bertie Masson, the worst manager in the history of football? The game played on the sloping pitch is just comedy gold. It's on YouTube, well worth a watch, says Tom and Tralee. Richie?
Gonna have to give that a go. No, I've never seen that. But
Doesn't sound great, I won't lie, Tom.
I'll give you a pop fact. Tim Healy's son, Matt Healy, is the lead singer of the 1975, the popular beat combo.
Well, we shouldn't hold that against them, should we?
No, not really. They're awful.
Yes, they are. What you got for us, Richie?
We'll start off with some breaking news, it seems. It's reported that this year's Ryder Cup will be postponed until next year. Padraig Harrington is due to lead Europe in their defence of the trophy against the US at Whistling Straits in September. The PGA of America confirmed today that August's PGA Championship will be played without spectators present at Harding Park in San Francisco. And the Guardian's Ewan Murray this evening claims that discussions have been ongoing about a postponement until 2021, and confirmation is due to come later this week.
Yeah, obviously this is just breaking in the last few minutes, and maybe no great surprise considering it looks as though even getting 25,000 fans in a day wasn't starting to look feasible. And I think they're probably looking at the way the outbreak is going in America, and there's no sign of any curve at all. It's plateauing at a very high level, and they need to make a decision around about now, because they can't press on, build all the infrastructure and call it off a week in advance, particularly if I'd imagine the European Tour are probably getting a little bit of pressure from their players who don't want to travel and may not want to travel at that stage. One of the consequences, they say as well, maybe that the Irish Open, which was obviously postponed, may take place on the week that the Ryder Cup was due to take place in September. So it may actually slot in there. So we'll see. We'll hopefully have Padraig Harrington on over the next couple of days to chat about this once it is officially confirmed.
Manchester City boss Pep Guardiola admits that none of his focus is on trying to catch Liverpool. They'll give the Merseysiders a chance to seal the Premier League title on Wednesday night if they don't beat Burnley tonight. Guardiola says his team need to secure a top four finish, and then their attention will switch to winning the Champions League. The teams are in for this one. Ederson starts in goal. João Cancelo, Nicolas Otamendi, Fernandinho and Alexander Zinchenko are their back four. In midfield, it's Rodri, David Silva and Phil Foden, and then Bernardo Silva and Riyad Mahrez flank Sergio Aguero up front. For Burnley, Nick Pope starts in goal. It's a back four of Matt Loughton, James Tarkowski, me and Ben Taylor. Then we have Josh Brownhill, Jack Cork, Ashley Westwood and Josh McNeil, and Jay Rodriguez and Mate Vidjar are up front for Burnley. Kickoff at the Etihad is at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, interesting Burnley squad. So Jimmy Dunn, who is from your neck of the woods, Ronan. He's on the bench for Burnley, so could make his first ever appearance for Burnley. Kevin Long's on the bench. No Robbie Brady, who must be injured, or he's off just reminiscing, getting nostalgic 4 years to the day since his goal, and he has something in his contract that day every year I just go on the lash and he can't play, but he's not in the squad. And Jeff Hendrick's not in the squad. And this is quite, well, it's going to be interesting how it develops under Sean Dyche. Maybe he's trying to make a point to the club owners. So they have several players out of contract, including Jeff Hendrick, who's obviously been linked with a move to Serie A, Phil Barsley, Aaron Lennon, Joe Hart. None of them are in the squad. They also have several injuries. So he's only going with 7 substitutes, even though you're allowed 9, and 2 or 3 of them are kids. So whether the players are refusing to play or whether he's just refusing to play them, it does leave Burnley in a really weak position.
Yeah, and this game is probably a good game to, if you're going to make a statement like that, this is probably a game to do it where it's a bit of a shot to nothing anyway for Burnley in terms of getting a point or getting 3 points. But yeah, I don't know the trajectory of Robbie Brady and Jeff Hendrick from that game, because obviously the goal was doing the rounds today, but I watched some of the highlights, and Jeff Hendrick and Robbie Brady were just imperious in that game. And they obviously, I think Jeff Hendrick broke Burnley's record transfer fee, and then Robbie Brady subsequently broke it again. So they were obviously putting a huge amount of faith in those 2 players to bring them forward and find themselves in the position where neither are figuring tonight. It shows how things have changed, really.
I was watching Robbie Brady's goal back, and sorry, I was going to, that, you know, people still go on about this Italy B thing.
Yeah.
That goal brings me a weird amount of joy every time I watch it. It's the look on Robbie Brady's face straight away. Just what it means to me. Like, yes, it's just glorious.
I think it's the Wes Hoolahan thing where, obviously having missed the chance a couple of seconds previously, to have the composure to what is an absolutely unbelievable ball. Like it was inch perfect to a point where it just beats the defender and drops in front of the goalkeeper. So he couldn't have placed it any better. And like if that was me or any other human, they're probably like all in their head about what they'd just done 30 seconds previous. But he managed to just blank that and basically steer Ireland to the next round. So credit Wes Hoolahan as well.
Any opportunity to credit Wes, I guess. Colin said...
yeah, to be fair to Brady...
Go on.
Yeah, to prevent Brady, when he signed a contract extension, they exercised the year option on his contract, and at the time, Sean Dyche flagged up that Brady was carrying a knock, so I think injury is what's keeping him out of this game and nothing more.
Cullum says, we love football as much for the opportunity to bitch about it. As for the on-field action itself, its return was never going to provoke some new nirvana of peace and goodwill. I can't believe it. That's what. Do
you feel your spirit lifted, Nathan?
My spirit, has my spirit been lifted? I don't know. It is nice to have just something to switch on the TV and watch, and not another box set. Not have to stress about, do I have to watch 8 episodes of this back to back? Yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I ended up watching too much of it over the weekend and missing lots of the good stuff. So I went out about 10 minutes from the end of Leicester-Norwich, missed both the goals. Ended up going out again about 10 minutes from the end of Brighton-Arsenal, missed all the good stuff there as well. And then forced myself to sit through the rest of the games just in case I missed something good. So I think I saw about 7 or 8 of them.
It's like literally anything else. Like, not every song is a good song. Not every meal is a good meal. Like, not every Premier League match is going to be a good match. That's just the position we find ourselves in, and the law of averages. And it's just the fact that all of them are on and that we haven't had anything in so long leads us to think that this is, as you say, some kind of brand new nirvana, and we're going to be led to the promised land of Premier League football, and that everything is going to be rosy in the garden anymore. And the reality is, half of it's muck.
Yeah, like any sport. Lots of games just aren't great.
That's okay.
And you don't know when the game is going to be great. You go back to the Declan Lynch thing, of which I always like to stick by, of, you should not watch a football game because you don't know what's going to happen. But like the criticism of the Merseyside derby, all right, it wasn't good. But there have been lots of bad Merseyside derbies over the last 4 or 5 years. Everton sit back, have no ambition, and Liverpool dominate possession and don't make the breakthrough. That is the pattern of so many Merseyside derbies. It's just that everybody's building it up to be something it's not. More on Bostock's Cup. It's a forgotten classic, lads. Also stars Nick Hancock, of course, long-time host of They Think It's All Over. He is sportscaster Mike Tonker, and Drop the Dead Donkeys Neil Pearson as his rival sportscaster Jerry Tudor. I think we might have to check this out.
I'm seeing this suddenly start ringing bells.
Right.
I think I may have seen the on the line. Yeah, I'm going to have to look it up, make sure I did.
What else you got?
The Gaelic Players Association want the GAA to scrap this year's provincial championships in football for this season alone. The GPA has called for a straight knockout format with an open draw in order to complete the championships before the end of the calendar year. Meanwhile, 17% of players that responded to a survey admitted that they may not return to play because they feel it's not safe to do so. Inter-county training can resume on the 14th of September.
All right. What else?
Conor McKenna, the Irish Aussie Rules player, is at the centre of a storm in the Australian media after testing positive for COVID-19. The Tyrone native plays for Essendon Bombers and is reported to have broken quarantine restrictions before the positive test last Friday. Australian TV station 7 News say there is a false positive line of inquiry, but that it's too early to say. The 24-year-old is asymptomatic and had returned all negative tests previously, but the positive test has led to the AFL banning contact training for large groups for the next 4 weeks. Essendon CEO Xavier Campbell told Triple M Radio in Australia that McKenna's case could prove vital in the wider education about the virus.
You know, we have seen examples of false positives, and we have seen other examples where further testing has garnered greater information and insight as to how contagious or not a virus might be. So we're still doing some work in that space now. Yes, he's been to Ireland, but he did come back through quarantine. He was tested twice as per protocol. You know, he's been tested 5 times since then. So there's an enormous amount of data. And in many respects, you know, Connor's case and the significant sort of rigour that goes into the testing in the AFL system right now may well present a really unique position for the medical experts to look at, unlike a lot of just the public cases where someone comes in and gets tested. And that's a true fact that someone sort of said to me yesterday. So it'll be interesting to see where it evolves from here.
Yeah, geez, he's taken some hammering, Richie, over the last couple of days, it seems, in Australia.
It's a weird one because we mentioned there the breaking of restrictions and of his movement. It's really a technicality, this one, because he and his brother apparently need to find somewhere to live. They went to view a new property, but the viewing of properties is only permitted if it's for a sale and they were looking to rent. So this is how he apparently has broken the lockdown restrictions in Australia, the movement restrictions in Australia. So The hammering he's taken is probably a bit on the harsh side. It's not a good look when you see it on paper saying he broke lockdown restrictions, but there are many nuances to this. And as the Essendon CEO points out there, like, he has been tested regularly. He entered quarantine after coming home from Ireland. This could prove a really good case in how the virus transmits itself through people and transmits itself through a community as a whole.
Yeah, it probably just reinforces, Ronan, I guess, that sports people are really under the microscope here, and any positive cases are going to be jumped upon, and people looking for an opportunity to massively criticise. And we see that in the PGA Tour, where, again, maybe there are questions. We're going to talk to Shane Ryan about it a little bit later, where Nick Watney has tested positive and woke up in the morning, wasn't feeling great. It seems he was tested, but went on to the course anyways. Was on the putting green alongside the likes of Rory McIlroy and Brooks Koepka, who I think both said they were talking to him on the putting green. And then they come to him and say, oh, actually, yeah, you tested positive. You might want to go back home again. So, listen, different sports obviously tackling this in different ways. Yeah, similarly, I know Richard probably mentioned it, but the tennis situation where there's been some murmurings from players maybe, so to speak, maybe lower down the totem pole, that this is sort of like a star-driven return. Obviously, Serena Williams came out last week and said she was keen to compete in the US Open. Obviously, she has her own reasons because she's chasing the Grand Slam record, so she needs all the chances she can get. But there's probably players seeking to qualify or maybe lower down the rankings who aren't so sure that this is the best time to be returning, and that was borne out at the weekend as well. Yeah, tell us about the tennis story there, Richie, will you?
Yeah, absolutely, because this all stemmed from the Adria Tour. Nick Kyrgios has described the cancelled Adria Tour as boneheaded. It follows the news that Grigor Dimitrov and Borna Coric have both tested positive for COVID-19. The Adria Tour was organised by world number one Novak Djokovic and played in front of crowds in both Serbia and in Croatia, and with no social distancing. The Croatian leg was cancelled prior to Sunday's final because of Dimitrov's positive test. Djokovic himself returned to Serbia without being tested. News of his subsequent testing, because he has to make contact with doctors back in his native Serbia once he does go home, hasn't been made known just yet. Others have said that they are beginning to self-isolate. Alexander Zverev, Marin Cilic among those, but there are two other positives as well. The fitness coach belonging to Djokovic and Dimitrov's coach as well have also tested positive.
So, because I was trying to follow this throughout the day, and I know you were covering it, Richie, was the attitude at this tournament that basically anything goes?
Yeah, I mean, when you consider that they were playing basketball together just in a kind of a social way on Thursday, the group involving Dimitrov and Zverev and Djokovic, I think, was involved in that as well. A bunch of them, including those three, were pictured at a nightclub on the Thursday as well, which was open. As I mentioned, there were crowds present at these events, both in Belgrade and in Croatia. So they were operating under different guidelines, different government guidelines than we have here. And Novak Djokovic, in speaking to Eurosport last week, kind of explained that things are different here. But it's not a good look when two of the players contract the virus on the Sunday prior to the final, and two coaches contracted as well, and several others are forced into getting tested, and the whole thing is cancelled. It's like, it looks really, really bad for a bunch of players who are going to be travelling to the United States for the 14th of August, which is the resumption of the ATP Tour, and then 2 weeks later for the US Open. Like, the US's handling of the coronavirus is in a bad enough state as it is. For them to be adding people who have been acting kind of irresponsibly where restrictions might be a little bit easier is not a great cocktail.
No, so we'll keep an eye on that over the next little while. We're going to have Rory O'Connor on just after 8 for Monday Night Rugby. Leinster and Munster back training, and something we'll touch on is that while it's not a new season in terms of where sides are in the Pro 14 and the Champions Cup, in terms of the transfer market, it is.
Absolutely it is, and Damien Dale could make his Munster debut in August. The World Cup winning Springboks recovered from a short-term injury and will be fit for the resumption. Keith Earls, Tyke Byrne and Calvin Nash are also likely to be fit for the Pro 14's resumption. Byrne's been out since December with an ankle injury. Meanwhile, Munster say Joey Carberry is on track for a return in September. Bad news for John Ryan, though. He's undergone a minor operation on his shoulder and he will begin rehab. All
right, so Rory O'Connor will check in with him, but certainly worrying about Joey Carberry, that he's not going to be back for the restart in the middle of August. It seems 53106 is the text number. NASCAR, pretty terrible story there.
Yeah, really dark story from Alabama over the weekend. The FBI is investigating the discovery of a noose in the garage of NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace. The incident occurred at Talladega Superspeedway on Sunday and has been condemned by the Alabama Governor, Kay Ivey. Wallace is the only black full-time driver in NASCAR. The organisation had recently banned display of the Confederate flag at its race meetings, and that was met with a drive-by display of the Confederate flag from so-called ex-NASCAR fans on Sunday as well.
Yeah, really shocking stuff, Ronan. I know you were keeping an eye on this. Probably the most shocking we've seen in sport over the last few weeks.
Yeah, unbelievably grim. And Wallace's statement, which he came out with to sort of rise above this vitriol, it's a credit to him, because I don't know how you can compose yourself after dealing with something like that. But the NASCAR's relationship with Confederacy, obviously, it was founded 70 years ago. It dates right back to that period. And it's been sort of an alienating element of the sport ever since its origins. So at least it's taken some horrible turns for them to finally confront it. But they need to start making some progress. And this is not it. This is a big step backwards, I think.
Yeah, it certainly is. We're going to leave it there, lads. Richie, thanks as always. Ronan, thank you as well. And we're going to take a quick break. And then we're going to the Etihad, where Manchester City take on Burnley. We're going to check in with Pat Nevin.
Off the Ball on Newstalk.
Have a great evening with itsforwomen.ie. Don't live your life on hold. Get a quote now at itsforwomen.ie and see why we're trusted by over 130,000 women in Ireland.